Arriving much sooner than we expected, squeezing in just before the release of Tears of the Kingdom, which, let's be honest, will take up all of our time for the rest of the year, here is the conclusion to the Xenoblade series, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Future Redeemed. The final wave of the expansion pass, the 25-hour standalone campaign, is the best and most refined Xenoblade experience yet. As Xenoblades 1, 2, and 3 are some of my favorite games ever made, my hype and expectations were sky high. In this review, I'll detail the ways this expansion improves upon the Xenoblade formula, provides one of the most cathartic story experiences I've ever played through, and why this expansion is a must-play for all fans of the Xenoblade series. This review will be entirely spoiler-free, so even if you haven't tried out the Xenoblade series, this review will help you decide whether to get into it or not. So, let's get started. Taking place generations before Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Future Redeemed finds the land of Aionios in similar circumstances. Two opposing nations are locked in perpetual conflict, which sustains the lives of the puppet masters behind the scenes, Mobius. When a godlike entity, Alpha, who looks a lot like Alvis from Xenoblade 1, shows up threatening to wipe out all life, a truce is called between the sinister Mobius and the rebellious freedom fighters, the Liberators. Our story centers on Matthew Vandam, a survivor of the Liberators' home base, the city, after its annihilation by the high-ranking Mobius, N. After witnessing his grandfather's murder by N, Matthew is searching for his missing sister Niel, as well as other city survivors. Matthew's path crosses with a sword user with a mysterious connection to Alpha, Shulk, the aged protagonist of Xenoblade Chronicles 1, and Rex, the glowed-up Giga Chad protagonist of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. They also encounter the young soldiers Nicole and Glimmer, who bear a suspicious resemblance to Shulk and Rex respectively. Our 6 heroes set off across regions of Aionios exclusive to this expansion in search of Niel, and to stop Alpha once and for all. And that's just the setup for the story, and what follows is an emotional thrill ride with all kinds of unexpected twists along the way. It's of the same high standard of storytelling the series is known for, with some of the best writing, voice acting, and cutscene directions we've ever seen in the Xenoblade series. The way cutscenes are edited is the most sophisticated and elegant we've seen from the series yet, with certain camera angles and transitions reaching a new high cinematic level. Despite being a DLC and taking place in the main game's world, Future Redeemed as a story really does stand alone as its own chapter in the Xenoblade canon. In that sense, it's similar to Xenoblade 2's Torna DLC, but the way that this DLC ties up loose ends of the main game, as well as the other 2 games in the Xenoblade series, makes it far superior. I cannot begin to describe how heartwarming it is to see Shulk again, with his returning voice actor Adam Howden giving a career-best performance as an older, wiser, but still kind version of this now iconic character. While 2 is my least favorite game in the series, this version of Rex was my favorite character in Future Redeemed, and while it's initially hilarious to see an older, serious, and jacked version of the annoying child Rex of 2, his arc provided much more warmth and heart than I expected. As for the rest of the cast, they don't come close to the GOATs Shulk and Rex, but Matthew and A are both memorable additions to the Xenoblade canon, with the game's heart coming from Matthew's love for his sister Niel. Nicole and Glimmer fare less well, being weaker and younger than other members, and easily overshadowed by the other 4 party members. Not terrible characters, but certainly less memorable than the cast of the main game or the other party members of Future Redeemed. On the villainous side of things, N is back from the main game, and he is given a bit more backstory which helps contextualize his actions in the main game. Other than that, we see far too little of Alpha, but it's not a lamentable omission. The focus being on the rest of the cast provides enough. To conclude, this was an excellent narrative, and one of the highlights of the Xenoblade series. The only downside is that this is not approachable at all to newcomers. Those who have only played 3 might need to do some digging on Xenoblade Wiki to fill in the gaps, as Future Redeemed expects that all players have some understanding of Xenoblades 1 and 2. Without any prior knowledge, Future Redeemed won't make a lick of sense, so I encourage you to have played 1, 2, and 3 before jumping into this. So, how does it play? The battles play mostly similar to the main game, with a couple new twists thrown in. Like the main game, you have to charge arts between auto attacks while juggling 6 party members. There's a lot to think about during fast-paced battles, and while it is overwhelming at first, once you figure it out, it confirms why Xenoblade is one of the most satisfying action RPG franchises out there. Chain attacks are back, with Ouroboros, or fusing 2 characters together, is out. Instead, you have Unity. 2 characters can unleash a special move together. If you've you've launched an opponent or perform a unity attack in a chain attack, the damage it does is absolutely insane. It's another new way to figure out Xenoblade's most satisfying mechanic, how to get the most damage in chain attacks. Coupled with challenging new unique monsters and bosses, it makes for some of the most challenging Xenoblade yet. Bosses are absolutely brutal in this expansion, with my ass getting handed to me on more than one occasion. Yet this is a good thing. It forces you to seek out side quests and explore the world to grind, yet it never feels grindy. The open world map is full of things to do, but all of it is rewarding thanks to new gameplay changes. In addition to XP and leveling up, you now have AP, affinity points. These points are rewarded for completing tasks, and you spend them to build out your character's stats and unlock new arts. Your character's affinity goals are essentially a skill tree, and while I'm usually no fan of skill trees, it's easy to use and is implemented well. What I really like about AP is that even doing easy tasks well beneath your level, you're still rewarded for the time you invested. As an example, you can get AP for killing a certain number of enemy species to fill out your encyclopedia. Let's say I'm level 40 and I kill 3 types of a weak level 5 monster I missed earlier in the game. While the XP those kills yields is negligible, the AP is still generous, so I don't feel like I'm wasting time fighting weak monsters. This is but one way to get AP, with others being building connections between allies, completing raid battles, or discovering new areas. Because you have a double stream of points, experience, and affinity, this is one of the most rewarding RPGs I can think of. Furthermore, the game is incredibly generous with currency and items, so nothing feels like a waste of time, and you'll want to keep checking things off the map, totally forgetting you were doing it just to grind for a boss. Awesome stuff. Just about every other aspect is of the same or higher quality as the main game, with Yasunori Mitsuda's soundtrack firing on all cylinders. Music has always been a high point of the series, and Future Connected's soundtrack is another outstanding entry. I will listen to this outside of the game for sure. Being Nintendo, it won't be available to stream outside of YouTube, which is a damn shame. On a technical note, like the base game, this pushes the Switch to its absolute limits. Some of the cutscenes and boss animations look to be the most sophisticated and graphically intense yet from the Xenoblade series. There's always an insane amount of action and information on screen at any given moment, and it's thanks to the absolute wizards at Monolith Soft that the frame rate never drops, and I never encountered a crash or bug. Game Freak could learn a thing or two from them, as it's ridiculous that Pokemon and Xenoblade can release in the same year on the same console, yet still look generations apart. When Tears of the Kingdom finally releases, Xenoblade 3's performance and graphics will be the standard I'll be comparing it to, as it's truly the best looking experience on the aging Switch. My only complaint with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Expansion Pass is how it was marketed, with Waves 1 and 3 not feeling like waves, but more like early purchase bonuses for Future Connected. While Wave 2's Challenge Mode was a nice but not necessary addition, the 2 hero quests were nothing special. I found Wave 2's Ino to be plain annoying, and Wave 3's Masha just boring. These are some of the least interesting heroes in the game, and certainly not essential gaming like Wave 4's Future Redeemed. It's not a big deal, as Future Redeemed more than makes up for it, but I did have higher expectations for those earlier waves. To sum this all up, Future Redeemed is more than just a DLC expansion, it is a victory lap for the already incredible Xenoblade Chronicles 3, as well as the Xenoblade series as a whole. It ties a nice bow on the entire saga, providing far more emotional depth than I expected, backed up by earnest fan service, dazzling visuals, outstanding music, excellent vocal performances, and stellar writing. It is more than just extra content. It is an absolute must-play for fans of the series, and for half the price of a full-priced game, it provides more content than most full-priced games. While nowhere near as long as the main game, I clocked over 25 hours to clear the final boss, yet I still have plenty of side quests, super bosses, and areas to explore. Just 1 month ago, I reviewed the Fire Emblem Engage expansion pass, and it's insane that both passes were priced the same, $30. I concluded that Fire Emblem Engage's DLC was underwhelming and overpriced, but the opposite is true here. I am floored at how much there is to do in Future Redeemed, and it more than justifies its price point, providing far more than DLC expansions for most games. Monolith Soft are truly a goated developer, and in my opinion, one of the best in Japan. They recently raised their average average salary by over 20%, ensuring the talent that made this game will stick around. I simply cannot wait to see what the studio does next. Whether that's an enhanced port of Xenoblade Chronicles X, a new Xenoblade installment, assistance on my dream Xenoblade Warriors spin-off, or a brand new game entirely. The way Future Redeemed is concluded, it feels like the near-perfect trilogy is done, and I'd like to see something new. Whether it has the Xeno prefix or not, I'm sure it'll be another home run for the studio. Anyway, if you've watched this far and are still on the fence, I hope I've convinced you to play it. If you haven't played any Xenoblade, I encourage you to give Xenoblade 1 Definitive Edition a try. I first tried it on the 3DS and couldn't enjoy it at all, but the Switch port is much more user-friendly. I would recommend all gamers to try Xenoblade. After all, I did pick Xenoblade Chronicles 3 as the best game of 2022. A lot of Twitter discourse dismisses it as weeb cringe, but it is much more than that. These are epic adventure RPGs, backed up by emotional storytelling and memorable characters. Anyway, thanks for watching until the end. What are your thoughts on the Xenoblade series and Future Redeemed? Let me know in the comments and I'll reply to you. And if you're interested in Japanese culture, check out my other channel, Open World Japan, where I take you on adventures across the real-life open world that is Japan itself. And for more game reviews, like this video and subscribe to this channel. So, thanks for listening to me ramble, and I'll see you next time.